Hello, everyone, and welcome to the broadcast. My name is newtmechanist, and today we're going to be continuing our game dev project. We'll see how far we get in to what we have been working on for the past couple of streams here. We're not gonna name names as far as what we'll be working on, because that seems to be a guarantee that we might not work on it. But first, let's check in with Kitties. We do only have Mason visible. He is really looking at something. Deciding if he wants to lay down there or not, I guess. Everybody else is dodging the camera. Ember is here with me. But yeah, we have been working on the map generation logic. Not like procedural map generation, but the background of the map. Hello, Molly. Molly has joined me. Molly is now the second headrest cat. Sherbet and Molly both will come up on my headrest when they want back scratches to some extent. Let's see where she ends up. She's a bit of a troublemaker. She'll get into shelving and whatnot if I don't keep an eye on where she's going. You can't touch that. Very much an ooh, what's this, cat? Alright. So, one of the things we need to do is stitch the textures together. We are going to get odd. Anyway, we are going to get the tile atlas stitched together. For now, we're probably just going to pass in the 1. We're going to make a testing image, a testing data set, essentially, that creates the map. Then this is kind of what we're working towards as far as how we'll render it. So we have some point in space that we are going to identify that is where the player is. We're going to identify which equally sized map chunk they are in. So this is not a like Minecraft chunk so much as it is just some region in the world. We're going to divide it up into pieces that are bigger than the screen. So you cannot see the edges without moving around. I want to make them relatively generously sized. I don't want to have to move this around a lot. But the idea is, as soon as you cross one of these lines, well, we'll be checking to see, are you still in the square? Are you still in the square? As soon as you aren't, we determine which square you're in, and we take this whole big box, the blue one, and we move it so that the player is now essentially in here and it's centered around this point. That makes it so that no matter where we're standing in the central box, the camera area, like say, that's the camera area. The camera area can fit inside a box easily enough, and I would, like I said, we want to make it substantial enough that there is nowhere you can stand inside the central area that would put the camera box anywhere near the edge of the blue rectangle. By doing that, we don't have to worry about doing lots of special math to like have this blue box just center on the player and follow them constantly. Since this corner is going to be anchored at fixed intervals, we can just snap it to that location. As far as the player is concerned, ideally they won't see anything because this will be happening during like physics processing, like where we move it. We could even handle it during the frames. I just want to make sure that there's no chance that you see the jump, you know? The actual rendering of it is still going to be handled by the shader that we're proposing, where what we do is we have the entire world map, which might be something like that. Most likely, yeah, we'll extend it out like that or something. Say here. So we still have about the same, we still have these blocks here, but I'm now diagonally down right 2 boxes from, we're going to call it 0, 0. There would still be map left and up and all of that. And, we might start somewhere that isn't 0, 0 to get all of this working cleanly. But what that allows us to do is just pop that box along. The actual map is going to be built up of either one big lump, one big texture file to represent the entirety of it. And as far as texture size goes, we have what would be the equivalent of, well, let's put it another way. This box cannot be any bigger than about 16,000 by 16,000. It's like 1024 times 16 or thereabouts. That's the biggest texture that you can stuff into a shader. Well, hey there, cats. It has been a bit. Cats are darting around. Where'd they go? Where'd they go? Everybody's hiding right now. Sammy is effectively under and to the right of the camera to the left of the camera on my right. And I suspect that Sky and Sherbet might be snapping under the bed or something. I don't know where everybody's gone. Let's keep the camera locked there for now. The kittens are doing great. Sky had an eye infection for a little bit, but that's finally cleared up. Still has the equivalent of a runny nose now and again, but his eyes are clear again. Trying to deal with some acne that Sherbet has. Ember had a little bit of it, but Ember's has largely cleared up. Sherbet still has some noticeable, so I got to get some lightweight cortisone cream and trap him in the bathroom long enough to give him a gentle, warm scrub down before applying the cream, and do that pretty regularly to get that cleared up for him. But otherwise, everybody's doing good. Bit of a shadow there. think one of the cats is to the right on the bed there. Can't see. Yeah, cats can get acne. It's real unpleasant. I would refer to it as when it's a mild case, it's kind of crusty. But it can get it can be relatively unpleasant. The most common cause or thing that people check for with cat acne is, are you using plastic bowls? Because there's something about the plastic surface itself that can be a skin irritant. But past that, it's, plastic tends to be like a microbe magnet. Stainless steel is better, and then I believe ceramic is kind of where you want to be. That kind of material. But, stainless steel or ceramic, that's kind of where you want to go, and you need to make sure that you're washing it pretty regularly. Scrub it down, let it dry entirely. Don't let food residue build up. But otherwise, the whole thing is very similar to what people get, so treatment is generally, regular cleaning. Make sure that you get to what I'm aiming for is to get to kind of a 0 state with him. Okay. So where were we? We have a world map. This is where we want to stitch things together. Check something here. Flashbang is imminent here, folks. I think this is where it is. Yeah, there we go. Let's see. We're still working on the game. Let's load this up a moment. This is some testing logic going on here with them not moving. The point of the testing logic is to see how many things we can have on screen without movement. But as we can see here, the blobs interfere with that. So let me just get that initial loadout file converted back over. This is C#, cats. Yeah, I gotta switch back over to my actual code here. Data, players, the Nyanite. Get some item, yarn ball. Let's verify. There we go. Do that. Do that. So we're to the point, player can move around, player can take damage. We can generate weaponry. The look, layout, all of that of the inventory, the actual items, those aren't, in a final state. These are all like very minimal pieces. But we have the ability to create the pieces. We have the ability to supply the pieces to the player. Everything has a skeleton as it should as far as the gameplay elements. Today, we're trying to get done with the map. Textures are bigger than this, I think. Or they can be. So max image, it lists it as about 16 million by 16 million, which is pretty big. Well, we'll worry about that a little bit later. So we have a world map. We have the idea of the tile textures. We're doing validation. Now we're initializing it. This is, if it's invalid, we are going to set it to a hard default. What this will do is make it so that there is an empty texture. A 16 by 16 empty block right now. Longer term, I might put a, file not found kind of default texture. The kind of texture that normally shows up is like a weird checkerboard if you actually see it in a game. Okay, so this is for all of the textures. We have current row and current column. What we need to do next is we get the image based on, we have a list of texture 2D, I believe. Width, not the tile height. Texture size. Tile textures, okay. Okay, so these are texture 2Ds in this. So for each one of these, what we're going to do is, first we need to make I'm trying to remember where. Okay. So we have tile size. This is like the sprites are 16 by 16. So maybe like a floor tile is going to be 16 by 16 as well. So this would be 16, 16. Tile texture size for our testing is going to be 16 by 16, but what we could have is essentially a block of them, so that we can create a series of different images that we would naturally cycle through as we're doing the rendering. Making it so any two side-by-side ones, you're unlikely to see the duplication very easily. More variation. So we'll do that. So the tile texture size, what we're doing is saying like, okay, let's say this is the maximum tile texture size, this whole thing. 1024 by 16. This is going to give us... this is the max size of the atlas. So if all of my full tile textures were 16 by 16, then we could have 1024 of them. But if they were 32 by 32, well, not 1024, but you get it. Way more than that. But if it's 32 by 32, we can fit fewer of them top to bottom. That sort of thing. So what we've got to do here with our... When we're setting up, we determine what's the most that we can fit in. The most tile textures we can fit in. And we are going to iterate left to right, top to bottom, as we're gluing the textures together into a big one. So we know how many are that are there from a maximum perspective, which should tell us... I have no idea. I don't ever watch the Super Bowl. Most contact I have with it is very insistent news feeds and people doing things like reviewing commercials. And I don't even think I've seen anything as far as reviewing commercials. That used to be a big thing. What were the cool commercials that would show up in the Super Bowl? Okay, so now what I want to determine is how many rows will there be? Know what the maximum size is. That's how big, how many of our tile textures can fit there. I have not. Completely unexposed to the Super Bowl this year. Beverage. Okay, so this is how many tile textures a row can accommodate. I wouldn't really be able to tell you. I thought it happened every year. What we want to do is divide it and round up. So, float. Max columns are going to be part of it. Treat it as a float. As a float. I have not. I have heard the name Bruno Mars. That's about it. We don't want round to the nearest. Isn't like ceiling? Yeah, round up. All right. So what we're doing is we're saying, like, okay, how many of them are there, and how many max columns will fit in it. So that will tell us how many rows we need. No, it's needed rows. So knowing how many rows we need, if the rows we need... If the rows we need is only 1, then we have a special case. We don't have a vertical stream going currently. Sometime I may get back to doing that. We've been doing so much coding, and the coding ones haven't been great for it, but I may start to load those up again. There's not really harm in doing it, but I really want to try to start earlier again, and that would prevent me from doing vertical streams. So if the rows needed is 1, then what we want to do is find out the modulo x columns is greater than 0. You know what? We're not going to have this special case. No, we are. This could be really wasteful. It's going to depend on what this number actually ends up being. So if I can hold 16 in a row, but I only have 5, there's no reason to allocate the extra 11 worth of space. That kind of thing. I do have a mechanical keyboard. It's not the loudest kind of clicky keyboard, but it's a clicky keyboard. Not a custom one. It's a relatively old Razer product, I believe. Nothing fancy. Yes, it is RGB capable. For the most part, I limit how much of that I use. It's primarily for making it easier to acquire which keys I might be looking for if I have to glance at my keyboard. Keyboard itself is black. Tile texture atlas is still this is an atlas image, not the tile texture atlas. No worries, Plush. Welcome. Okay, so that is width is needed columns times that. Pulse and image format RGB data. Go.image.create empty. Okay. All right, so this gives us our atlas here. And what we'll do is we are going to now what we're going to do is we're going to iterate over the list, and we are going to append. We are going to graft the textures in our list into this thing. So our source image, our source rectangle, and our destination point. Come here, Sky. Come here. You nuisance. Have to get a vet appointment for those eyeballs again, am I, sir? Yeah. Sky will kind of half approach me. If he is fully certain that he wants to be on my lap, he'll walk right there. But sometimes he'll, like, get forepaws on my lap, and then he'll be standing over the mouse or too close to the mouse to be able to use it, which creates problems. Isn't that right, you? So what I will do is kind of haul him onto my lap if he gets in that state, but there is a moment where he'll try to back up because he's like, oh no, don't pick me up. But right after that, he'll settle. Yeah, some head pats. I think I put the camera on the shelf, but apparently I put the camera on the shelf. That is the shelf camera. That is camera 4. Spot that Sammy prefers. Oh, yeah. I have really good filtering software. For reference, NVIDIA has something that you can just download called NVIDIA Broadcast, which has really good options for sound filtering. OBS has similar filters built into it. I think it has the NVIDIA filter as a built-in option. But I use this filtering even for like using Discord and the like. Really good. That's why I have I show no pity when it comes to criticizing people for having like a fan or the noise through the window be audible, because you could just load this software. It's not perfect, but it also has green screening software that is... It's not really green screening. It tries to cut out any background around the foreground person. So you'll still see fuzzy edges, but it can do that without like a color key. Yeah, super useful. So our source image is tile textures. Let's see. I could just make this rectangle. Alright, it overrides. Yeah. So the source rectangle is at 0, 0, and it is texture size big. So our source rectangle is always this. Then do this again. And then the target rectangle is where we want to put it. Okay, no, we just need a position, so we don't need target rectangle. This way. The cats are really bad about picking a direction that isn't maximally disruptive. They always want to go straight line. So if they see a narrow aperture that they're going to have to like crawl all over buttons and whatnot, that they can go in a straight line to get through, they'll try to go that way, even if it is slow and burdensome and they're going to trip over stuff. I have not tried it. I've seen people play Marvel Rivals. Doesn't seem like a bad game, but I don't really play a lot of shooters anymore. Way back in the day, I used to play things like the original Counter-Strike. You know, before it was a standalone product, back when it was like a Half-Life 2 mod. Being very needy, Sky. Hello, Sherwood. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. Come on. I've heard good things about Marvel Rivals, as far as how it plays, and I do like some of the design values that they have put in place in there. That the core idea with how they build and balance is power fantasy. It's not that they start and say, we want this to be competitively balanced. Now let's make characters that are competitively balanced. It is, we want characters that feel powerful. How do we make them feel powerful while being competitively balanced? So that means things like a character that has been hitting super duper hard and people feel is too strong for what they do. There was at least one instance where they just made that character extra squishy. So that character still hits like a truck, but they're easier to bring down. Which is neat. Okay, so this will be... So our destination position is... vector 2. Hopefully this won't actually be a problem. Vector 2s, or texture 2Ds are images. Worst case, if this ever were to actually become a problem, I could make it more efficient. But this is at most at the start of a level kind of thing. Not even necessarily at the start of a level. It could be at load up. All right, so this is column. Texture size .x. Texture size .y. All right, so this should take each of those images and stitch it left to right, top to bottom into the locations into the big image that we've created. Then, once we are done doing this, atlas texture is equal to create tile texture atlas. How are we doing that in our converter? Image texture.create from image. There. Okay. So, walking through this, we come in and we say, how many tile textures are there? Actually, so we have that's right. We did this for a reason. Hey there, Daily. Reason we did this is so that we have failover cases. Oh, but this will fail outright. Oh, okay. No, this is where we still want to do tile texture.count. So here, when we're calculating the size of it, we are going to use this modified value. Because again, we are creating a blank one if these are invalid. If I come up with a dummy texture, then we will actually clear it out. We'll load the dummy texture, and then we can reset that again. So everywhere else, we need to use this modified tile texture count, because we want to treat it as if there's one texture, but then when we're actually loading it, if the list is empty, we don't copy anything into the atlas image. We got this. Okay, so now we have our texture atlas. This is our map texture. So we're going to need to make... Daily, I am using currently Godot 4.3, and I'm using the mono compiler version, which lets me do this in C#. Okay, I need to make a dummy PNG that is going to be a small series of pixels here. Let's go into our... little bit of a flashbang for you. Don't want to use actual color. Let's hide that just a moment. We are going to make this 5 by 5 pixels. We're going to load that in Krita. One second. It's sad that MS Paint has become increasingly less effective than it originally was in a lot of ways. Oh, odd. You can see my thumbnail editing. This. Down there. Oh, brush is a pixel brush. Yep, 5 by 5. And we want to actually edit this to be. So if it's 0, we're going to fill it with 0 first. I am live on Twitch as well, cats. There'll be an ad starting there in about 3 minutes. Fill black. Then actual brush, which is pixel size. And we're going to take 1 in the red channel. Oh, that's why. This is a really, really subtle difference. If I do this as a mask, maybe I can see it better. Yep, Daily, that cat's name is Sammy. Let's see how many others we can spot. Okay, visible. We have Sammy, lower right, Mason, left center, Sky, top left, and Ember, top center. Ember is across from my keyboard. Sky is kind of above and behind me on the left. And Sammy's off to my right. Mason's a little further away. Alright, how are we going to get this visible is the trickier part. Okay, so why I'm kind of muddling with this at the moment is I need to figure out how to present this so that you can still see it. Okay, there we go. So this is red 1 here. I'm going to call this the 1 layer. just so. Okay, so these look black. They're not. They're very, very, very faintly red. But actually, we need... Yeah, that's RGBA. Yeah. Image. No, it's not image properties. I was just looking at that. There we go. We'll track that later. We are going to save this as... Save this as a level template file. And we're going to use this kind of pattern for creating stuff. This will likely be a lot bigger. I'm going to need to figure out a better way to generate the maps more cleanly visually. I have some thoughts on how to do that, but we'll get there later. But for the time being, then I can export this, and we'll export it as a PNG. Alpha, yeah. Okay. So then we load this up. And then we zoom in and there's some real blurriness because, PNG extraction there. But now we have the image to use. So here's our spawner item list for level 01. We need to come up with an extra pattern because levels is not what we started with. Thanks for swinging by, cats. Let's see. Well, this will have to change eventually, but we'll get there. The problem is it's the when to spawn aspect. I don't want those to be in the spawners. I want when to spawn to be here in the list. Because in the list is where we are going to be determining like how much and when. So I would say, okay, I have a spawner items list, and then I would have a corresponding list of start times and end times. Yeah. Because I would like to be able to use, so here's spawn around player. I'd like to be able to use spawn around player for blobs over and over, but right now it has hard-coded markers inside of it that tell you when it spawns around player. Spawner items. Yeah, like it's hard-coded to start and end at 20. I want to move that out of here and into the spawner item list. We'll figure that out later, though. I can also figure out like some sort of other pattern for it, but anyhow. Convenience. I mean, ultimately, I could call them something else, but they might as well be text files. Or put another way, it doesn't really change the function of a JSON file. Because I'm still... what I ultimately still need to do is take the file, load it into a stream, take the contents of that stream, jam it into the JSON parser, and have it spit out the object. Yep, it's programs that save files in particular formats are going to save them using conventions of that format. So these bits mean these things when I'm writing them out. That it will sequence it properly. So if I edit a PNG with Notepad, you can see that there is some sort of indicator that it's a PNG at the start of the file, but then the rest of it comes through as gibberish as far as a text editor is concerned, because that's just the layout of the data, but everything is just a file, and you're telling it to interpret it as text or something else. All right, so what I need to do is separate the definition for spawn lists and the level maps themselves. I kind of did the opposite, at least as far as the progression of my skills. I primarily did programming, and then I got into some video editing for my channel. I haven't done videos lately. Hopefully when Wilds drops, I'll get some content that's easier for me to edit into something easily consumable. Spawn list for level 01. And we don't need a subfolder inside this subfolder. This will be map level 01. And we are going to need the next document. Come on, rename. Fine. Your way. Windows. right, so these will be generally paired. They don't have to be. So map level 01 is going to have type is going to be based on the class name, which will be world map. Our width and our tile height. I would love to do it sooner rather than later, but a lot of what I'm doing really would be made easier if I built some tools to drive this. So having a GUI editor for generating some of these and then spitting out the JSON, because I've got them all set up to be able to serialize as well as deserialize. So if I create an object and populate the content, that can work. So in like name converter here, this might ultimately not work properly. But we'll see. Resource path isn't necessarily going to be what I want it to be. We'll have to find out. One of those things. Then tile texture width. Tile textures, okay. Oh, wow, I maimed that one. I mean, the fact that you're doing video generation, I think, is what's going to make it more complicated. Since writing a GUI is easy, because a lot of the languages have very visual toolkits to do it. Writing a good GUI is harder. Hello there, Miwa, over on the Twitch side. If you notice that I'm talking to somebody that you can't see the text of, they are on the other platform from you, Twitch versus YouTube. Hello, Sherpa. Hey, bud. Hey. Well, come here. Leaning over to give Sherbet some back scratches. I want to be daily again, Miwa. I'm really trying for at least every other day. Outside of stream issues have been interfering. Okay, then we need file paths. We are going to take files. Here. thank you, Miwa. I like how it turned out. Okay, so now we need to make a quick... Oh, I commissioned somebody for this. This quality of art, let alone the knowledge to do rigging, is not in my skill set at the moment. Maybe someday, but not today, by any stretch. Oh, okay, levels, reptiles. We are going to... Loaded in here anywhere? Sad. Alright, let's get that loaded up here. That's right, James. Get the Sprite project loaded up. Start with 16 by 16. I wonder if Sprite would be a better way to handle this. Now, I'm getting a some tiles set up here. File, save as. Someday. Goes there. Well, thanks for swinging through, Daily. Levels. Getting an Sprite file set up. Alright, so this can be whatever we want it to be for the time being. We're going to make it relatively obnoxious so that we can really tell what's going on. Been a while since I have used Sprite, actually. Make it obnoxious, but not terrible, you know? Miwa, as far as preference for live 2D over 3D models, it comes down to quality of presentation. This is something that comes up like in the discussions related to like texture art and the like, or at least like sprite art versus 3D models, that kind of thing, is how well do you present it and how well does it convey what you want it to convey? I feel like a high quality 2D or 3D one is sufficient. If the 2D one is higher quality as far as the art and the rigging, then the 3D one, then the 2D one is better, and vice versa. For 3D ones, I see a lot of people using like a standard base with like palette swaps, clothing items, that kind of thing glued on, and I don't find those to be as good. There's a lot of quality 2D art and shader logic that needs to be loaded into a 3D one sometimes. Trying to make really soft colors here so it's not eye bleedy. There's nothing I need work done on right now, Miwa. I appreciate the offer, though. Get some nice pastels in here, you know? There we go. Then let's be honest with ourselves and just darken the colors up. Let's try that again. I do have a palette that I use for the sprites that I'm trying to keep up with. What am I doing? I don't mind painting in the sprite editor. I've tried doing some sketching streams. They're, you know, I'm mediocre at best. You do what you do. I'm gonna call you tile 01. Tile 01, which should give us a tile 01 here. Great. For now, we now have a tile 01. Which is going to be data, levels, map tiles. Any other variables we need to load into that? A map texture, comma, texture is going to be all the way out to levels. Map level 01. I'll keep it in mind, Mila. Okay, so now we have a world map loaded in. Then I think this is also where we'd want to set up the spawner list to use. Murder. What? Of loggable name converter. This needs a spawner item list. There is a link to the Discord server and in my profile page in Twitch. There's a link to a LinkTree that has a link to the Discord server. I generally don't respond to direct messages with any frequency or reliability. Server is the better way to approach any sort of contact. Okay, so this will load a spawner item list. I do mind that. I would not want to discuss the financials of the model. This model was made by Animation Studios. My YouTube page has, I think I posted the model demo file. I'm not sure. Okay, we need a spawner item list, and the spawner item list. Item list is definitely could be that. How many of them are visible right now? See Sammy and Mason there. Mason's where Sammy likes to lay normally. Alright, let's see here. Sky is up in the tree. Ember's across from my keyboard. Sammy and Mason are on the bed. And then Sherbet's in his little house. And Molly is up in the tree. Molly's the only one that doesn't lay on the bed pillows ever so far. She competes for space everywhere other than the bed and the shelf. Hey there, Baileys. Okay, now we should be able to load up world map. All right, let's... So we're going to go into our base catalog. So we have levels. Spawn lists. We won't be loading from map tiles in the catalog. Levels path plus spawn lists. On this path. I'm not familiar with that name, Yukataka Oka. Is this a name I'm actually familiar with, but just can't recall? Alright, does it explode? It exploded. What are we loading? Texture file. The path is empty. That's weird. calling into that, which is the file stream, loading map01. Make sure that we have map tiles, it's in data levels. The addition of full Unicode, including the emoticon and similar sets, into basic text handling in a lot of places is amusing, but has been a bit of a blight. Tile 0, 1. I take it she was a minor at the time, Bailey's? The person who was the inspiration for Yandere Simulator. I know Japan tends to have very stringent limits on prosecution of minors. Should say people under 18. As I do know there are some variations with the term of legal adult in Japan. But it's empty. Why would it be? We get into here. Oh. Okay. This is supposed to be reading the map file. Map level 01. Is this one. Level 01. There we go. Stop. No. I had a double quote there. Level 01 in the catalog. Or are we trying to retrieve that one? have a constructor area for... There we go. World map. 110 streams, Baileys. Okay. That spawner item list is receiving null. And we changed the name of this. No, well, calendar days, yes. Calendar days that have included streams where we're working on this. I do some offline work, and the streams are generally about 3 hours. So if you look at this as dedicated days of programming, you're looking at more like half to 1/3 of the number that we're looking at. Much more akin to 1/3. So, over a month. All right, it is no longer exploding. Great. Yeah, we're dealing with a very different animal, and there's a lot of stuff that I've had to add in. Cut this down to what is more likely a reasonable number, or a more reasonable number. There we go. So this is, we're maintaining about 500 bullets and enemies combined on screen at once, and we can handle about 400 frames a second. This gives us wiggle room. Adding 3, multiplying by 3 again is a bit much, so. Yeah. Okay. Now we are adding the spawner item list to the world state, but that's not really how we want the world state to operate. Instead, we want world state to work from a map. Some of those... So I have one that passes in a double. And then it's like, hey, do you want to make one that takes a float too? Why would I want to do that? Where have I ever done that in the rest of the code? nothing. Create an air state, and then we go base world state. That. And then we go back into the game state. Map. Epilogue folder, which is our world map. This would be okay. Local is world map. There's no map texture or spawner item list. The spawner item list should definitely be populated. Oh. No. Spawner item list is a single thing. And a spawner. Let's close everything else. Other tabs. Solution Explorer open. Spawner item has an entity and it has a behavior list, all of that goodness. Okay. Spawner item list itself is just a thing, though. Our item list also being iCatalogable. Just talking through the debugging thinking here. Map texture should be loaded and spawner item lists should be able to be loaded by that time. Tile texture atlas doesn't exist because we haven't called initialize. Tile textures has its image loaded. So our map texture and our spawner item list aren't coming through in map level 0. On this level 0, 1. item list in world map has a catalogable name converter on it, which should query the catalog at that point. Let's add a couple of breakpoints. Our get list here. These are the notable ones. Under here, so spawn item list. We have catalogables. We have spawner item list. It should contain nothing just yet. We do this. And now it contains one. Oh, the key value pair entry in catalogables. So 0 is spawn list 0, 1. Okay. Spawn list level 0, 1. Yup. Data levels. That's where our map level 01 PNG is going to come through. Should be that right there. Data levels, map level 01. Same with tile. Tile got loaded. In map texture. Has a texture name converter on it. What that will do is it will get a string. It will hunt for a file name based on that string and convert it into a texture 2D. Step again, and we're going to look at our world map, which has a thing in it. Zero, 1. It has a spawner item list. In our game state, in our ready call, map level 0, 1. Has no copy constructor. Or at least the copy constructor isn't done. Oh. We're using equal with map textures because those are effectively immutable objects that we're dealing with. We're getting a resource reference, and that is going to be shared anyway. tile texture atlas. Since all of this is the same, we should be getting the same results across the board. Services.catalog. All that. Copy. This one is being duplicated just to be sure, because it's possible that a catalog item copy could get, like the local one could be edited. So we're calling out to duplicate it so that they don't edit each other simultaneously. Map texture, the texture atlas, the tile textures, the width and height of both of them. Okay. We are loaded. This is the blobs should appear based on the world state map, world map now, or the spawner list in the world map. Okay. I'll do an interim commit here. Alrighty. Let's make a second map tile. This one, going to add another ring here. Just so. Call you tile 2. Tile 1 and tile 2. That up to here. And on the 2 layer, we fill in the remainder here. Hey there, Levi. That. Okay, so now we should have two tiles, 0, 1, and 0, 2. They're in a checkerboard pattern in a 5 by 5. With the assumption being that this is 0, 0, this upper left corner. Okay. So we've got all that loaded. Let's give a quick run check here. It does not explode, does not explode. But wow, it's running badly. Okay, Credo was massively competing with it. I suspect shaders were competing. Despite this being 2D, we are actually putting a lot of utilization into our graphics card. We are going to use resources. Thinking on this, if I standardize the sprite sheets in their layout, I might be able to create an atlas of them such that the shader only needs to be given a single one to load it, and then we just have the same restriction here. But that's still... Let's not go there yet. Well, thanks for rejoining there, Levi. Hey, my alerts are still working. I'm always pleased to see my alerts working because they're all manually created. Normally you would use something like, if you're using Streamlabs, you would use the Streamlabs one. If you're using Stream Elements, that will work, but Stream Elements doesn't play very nice with YouTube alerts. Last I checked, and by not play nice, I mean not at all. It says it does, but it don't. Let's see. Yeah, you got a lot of kitties on your logo there, Levi. A lot of kitties. Thanks again for rejoining. I appreciate it. All right, so now we need to take the world map that we have, and we need to start looking at feeding it into the shader. Let's do a quick sanity check on this here. We need to do the initialize call. So when the world map, sorry, when the world state has the could have a get set on the tile texture atlas. Let's do that. So ignore, because once we make it a property, it's going to want to try to serialize, deserialize it, which is not something we want to have happen because it will break. Yeah. That would infinite loop. I could just have it in the get and say that as soon as you ask for it, it will compile it the first time. I could have it to be as soon as the world state is handed it that it does the compilation. I can't do it as part of the other sets because they're all... I can't guarantee which order they're going to come in the JSON. When we load it into the catalog for the first time, right here is where we could do the initialization of it, because it doesn't need to be fully loaded up inside the catalog. Okay, what this does is when we load it from file, we don't initially configure it, but when we launch it from the catalog, it will create the atlas. It's not perfect, but we're going to roll with that. What I don't want is to have the first, frame of the... where it's saying, give me the tile texture atlas to feed to the shader. I don't want that to be delayed by it compositing this image together. Be the end of the world? No. And do I like this? No. But we're doing this for now. Okay. So next, we are just going to apply this to a... So the world map is the data structure. The world state, I think, can be the thing that that has the view to it. That can be the thing that checks where the player is and updates the visible rectangle and the corresponding shader information. Alternately, the world map could be doing some of that, but... even this isn't 100% correct. Yeah, this isn't quite right. There are more than one of these inside of an overall map. There are multiple map textures representing things. What I think ultimately we would have is there would be one master map texture and then one looping map texture. Okay, let's consider it that way. That there is a master map texture that is, in Vampire Survivors, the first area. You spawn right pretty much on a crossroads, and in the four corners of the map are special tiles that have fixed items on them. But if you go beyond those bounds, you're just in an infinite looping area. And so what this will do is it will define what does the infinite looping area look like. And just to know how many infinite looping areas from the master area, from the center zone, are you? Since we can anchor this base map texture at 0, 0, its upper left corner is sitting on 0, 0, then we can mathematically determine whether you're on the master chunk or if you're on one of the looping chunks. and which one you're on. Okay. Yeah, that'll do. So we'll just start with this one, though. So then the world state is going to be the one that does that song and dance of to say, where are you? And which map texture am I pulling information from? Because then I can also stitch this together and have a core map texture and a expanded map texture. We'll leave that alone. But what I'm thinking of is that there will be these two map textures here. And what we'll actually work with is to create something akin to this blue area, but as the overall area. So what I have is a series of blocks that would be, the center one is the master map texture. That is the fully predefined one. The edge ones would be composited from, would be added on using the looping texture. So this would be the master texture in the middle, and then the looping texture would be duplicated all around the edges. We do that because then we know how to deal with the edges of the map of the master texture. As soon as you're in one of the looping textures, it doesn't really care anymore. And we could have a second one that is, this is a 3x3 composed of nothing but looping textures. There's complication there. We'll figure it out. The alternate case is always to have, am I in the master? I am, okay. Where am I in the master? Whichever edges I'm closest to, we will add those in when we are extracting the rectangle. But I just don't want to be creating new images with any frequency. So what this should mean is that we need we're going to look at the world state here. World state's in 2D. Okay. It's the world map, then we can have, since we have the world map, we have those pieces. This is a texture rectangle. Take a quick look at Godot. Where did I put? It's not in the game. part of world state yet. Oh, it is part of core. And it's just direct. Okay, so we can have a rectangle like that. All right, all right. That's our visible region texture rectangle. Not new, the world map. We need these set up. Okay. I could just make this a default child so that it will exist by the time ready happens. Let's do that. Export. Build. Then in world state. Now let's make it. Let's make the whole thing. Texture rectangle. So we're putting it 0, 0 here. We're gonna need to look at our shader renderer. Hey there, Laura. Welcome. That's the thing that we're ultimately going to feed in. Okay, map shader renderer has what we need there. Okay, okay, okay. This does not have the visible region. It has the map. I mean, more ammunition tends to solve a lot of problems. visible area that represents the 3x3 block of map data. World state, we are going to get our... We're going to feed texture atlas in from the world state when we're ready. A map renderer needs to be able to receive the world map. World state may need it as well. But does world state actually need the map? Would world state want the map for? Because it's the renderer that actually determines. And thanks for the follow there, Fiav. But it doesn't do anything with the map. We're writing a game, Fiav. Right now, we're coding the logic that will display, like, background tiles. And I'm trying to decide how I want to do this, and I think that the base world state doesn't actually need to be the one that has the map. Oh, no, it wants the map. It wants the map for the purposes of the spawning, but it doesn't care about the visual elements of the map. Yes. The Vampire Survivor style game. The hook is that the weaponry is sort of like a line of code. So we have a yarn ball that emits in a random direction. This is our testing thing. There will be a yarn ball weapon. This is not that yarn ball weapon. It just looks like it. If I add a split into 3, it splits into 3. If I add a spiral outward, it spirals outward. If I take that and I add a wave motion to it, we get a little twirly there. Spiral. Here, let's add a bunch of splits to get rid of the more enemies. So they're moving like a wave. Left, right, kind of a snake curve kind of thing going on. Well, let's add spiraling after the snake curve. Hello, Gnomable. Thanks for the follow. So these are outward spirals that are moving along an S-curve that is moving along a straight line emitted in a random direction from the player. So let's add some more of that. Should be able to get 3 to the 4th without the frames per second dropping too much. Oh yeah. Probably do 5th. Okay, we crossed the 4,000 line. Okay, so the difference here, though, is that the order of these matter. Currently, there's just the one scene. That's kind of what we're working on. It's hard to see, but there's a red dot in the center there. That is the center of the world. That is 0, 0. by default what we're working with. That will actually be the upper left corner of the primary map once we're done with what we're doing. The order of these matters. So this is S-wave, spiral out. Let's put it down to 3 to the 4th and get some frames back. Okay, so then if we switch spiral out with S-wave, we're going to get a different result. So if you see, the pattern has started to change. Yeah, that's because the shader is operating on the draw of the entity renderer, and that continues even in the pause. Whereas the game updates are controlled by the physics step of the main game object, and if we go into pause mode by triggering the menu, all of those updates don't happen. We don't call or send any of the messages anymore. So everything just stops and moves in place. So this sequence matters here. We can also put in a delay such that we're going to start by emitting 9 of them will emit at once. It'll look like 5, but 9 of them emit at once, and they start spiraling. After 3 seconds, they will continue spiraling, but they'll split into 9 again. So we're going to hit 3 to the 4th over here, and they'll start moving in an S-curve. So as the old ones are ending, you can see them spiral out, and then after a point, they burst again, and their movement pattern changes a bit. Let's use a more obvious one than spiral out. We'll use spiral in here. Spiral in creates a little loop-de-loop pattern when it moves in a straight line. So it loop-de-loops out, and then about a quarter of the screen away from the center, you can see them spiral wildly. For the core gameplay, Vampire Survivors. There are a lot of games like that now, but Bullet Heaven game. For the weaponry, a game called Noida. We used to play that a whole bunch on the channel. The current thought, Viav, is that as you perform objectives like beat enemies or potentially other things, you'll get points towards unlocking another upgrade. So you'll get another doodad to socket into a weapon or a new weapon to choose. The gameplay will center around which weapon you take, because that determines what the base behavior is, which upgrades you take, and which weapons you apply those upgrades to. You will be able to swap them by pausing the screen and moving them around, but it's finding combinations that supply the right amount of, power and coverage, because those are the two things that are core factors in this kind of game. Is how much of the screen can I cover with how much damage? Because eventually you have so many things coming after you that it's not a matter of one little blob bouncing in the corner or on the side of the screen like over here on the left. It's a matter of most of the screen is little bouncing blobs, and you want to apply damage to most of the screen as a result. So is this pattern better than some other pattern? Is it better to S-wave here, or is it better to spiral out? Is this better than the last one? That kind of thing. Is it better to start with a wave pattern, a zigzag pattern? This is spiral out on a zigzag path. zigzag path kind of ticks back and forth on a 90-degree arc, kind of a hard metronome left-right, whereas the S-curve is a smooth wave, flows back and forth. But yeah, it's figuring out which ones will actually work. These multipliers are going to be way less common, and there will be bigger prices to using them because multipliers like that are, in this particular game genre, they tend to be obligatory. Projectile multiplication upgrades tend to be kind of obligatory, and I want to avoid upgrades you really need to have without getting into the territory of there are weapons that outmode them or that can't use them kind of thing. This is the 110th stream. Each stream is, let's say 2 to 3 hours. And we tend to get like maybe half of that in coding time. Sometimes all of it, and sometimes we run long or short. A lot of the time that we've been spending is on performance optimization. Right now, there are about 150 things on the screen at any given time. All of them are moving and doing collision checks. I can move around. They move around. The movement that they do is relatively complicated. We're currently getting about 770 frames per second. More than that, but let's call it 770. The game is capable of surviving. If I were to take... Let's maximize this. We are going to I think it's every half second we are going to create or a 3 to the 9th projectiles. Hey there, Minty. Welcome. Okay. So there's about 24,000 things active, technically active on the screen at all times. We still get 3 to 4 frames a second. A lot of work has gone into making that true. Well, glad to have you back, Minty. Let's pull it back down to 3 to the 6th. Should get us back into double-digit frames per second once those start going away. There we go. 3 to the 6th is still a lot. So we're still down in singles. 3 to the 5th. That should get us into doubles. This is what I generally refer to as calamity cases, where the whole game engine, as I've set it up, is being pushed to its limits. In order to facilitate this, the performance that we're seeing, all of the entities on screen, the blobs, the yarn balls, the player, those are being rendered on the GPU directly in a shader. There is just one big panel that is doing all of that at once. It's super fast. All of the collision detection, whether the blobs get hit by the yarn balls or not, whether the blobs hit the player or not, is also being done on the GPU. It's doing a lot of brute force detection. But because it's GPU handled, it's super fast. Heading into this, I had never made a game. I have never made a game. I've never used Godot before. C# is something that I am comfortable coding in, but I've never done extensively until now. Like, at a pro level kind of thing. I've never worked with shaders until now. So we've all gotten to learn a lot of stuff. It's been fun. But this is the core premise of the game, or the core loop of the game, we'll call it, is get upgrades, repel enemies. That's the general case. I plan on having a lot more little stuff that follows the overall lore of the game. But for the time being, that's the core of it. If blobs hit you, you lose health, you get pushed around. Thanks, Gnomable. Thanks for swinging through. You take enough damage, and the player goes away. This is not the full game logic here. The player is not actually gone. Or at least, the bullet emitter is still alive. The player is gone. Everything still considers the player position where it originally was. So I can still... You can still see yarn balls getting fired out there. But we have the bones of a game now. Okay, so map render. Map render needs to be supplied with a set map. Takes a world map. Set map, takes the map. We could have this be part of the actual object. Similarly, over at world state, doesn't actually need a set map. What it needs is a world map. Get set. Base world state. No, I think that's still good. No, I think we should still have that. You can get what it has, but you have to set you have to call set on it. It doesn't necessarily need to store it, though. trying to decide if I want this to be like a base function that they should extend off of it. The problem with not doing it is that we have to remember to repeat the logic. No, okay, no, we'll do it this way. By default, there's nothing that says it keeps it. You call set, it does its own thing with it. These need to be public. I acknowledge you, Sky. I do. I do. Sky has decided to jump up behind on my headrest, and he is too big for that. For one, he'll lock the seat fully reclined as a result of that, which means if I get up, the seat will tip. If I lean forward, he will lose his balance. It is a circumstance that we see ourselves in. Sherbet comes over here and is like, that's my spot. Hey, buddy. Interruption by cat. Okay. Hello. Okay, so we set the world map. We've got the world map. We run the game. We verify that nothing explodes real quick. Okay. Okay. Visible area. Okay, how do we want to do this? Whenever we set the world map, there will be special logic that kicks off in order to tell us, in order to populate the shader. It's like the most awkward direction you can try to go there, Sherbet. There are cats at every interval blocking. I know. They're swarming me because their dish hasn't been filled enough. Which we will get to. Okay, so I can set the world map. There's nothing about the map render that says it needs to keep the world map. Because it could just do a one-time read and then it cares nothing more about it. Which is distinctly possible. We'll go with that. Then in the shader-based version, we have ride. the base. Supporting the visual area. That. We create one of these. That way. Get a constructor. Now we're going to make our visible area texture rectangle here. Layout preset dot top left. What this says is when I say position, I mean take the upper left of the rectangle and put that at the position. This will set it to 0, 0. Gonna set it to 1920 by 1080. Currently, that is not how we're going to be setting it. It is going to be based on external logic of how big the screen is and how big a map chunk is. So let's actually put this at the map tiles. It's like 11 by... Take a quick look at the screen. We can get an idea of how big to make it. No, we can't. Let's say 500 by 500. That'll be plenty. Needs to be in multiples of 16 for it to make sense. Needs to be in multiples of the tile size. Okay, this will force it to be, it's at 0, 0, and it's effectively invisible. We set the world map, then We set the position based on the start point or the center. We don't have that calculation in here yet, but visible area dot size is equal to width height times way bigger than it needs to be. No, it should be in groups of 3. And thereby 30. Yeah. Let's say 30 by 30, so these are magic numbers for now. We're just getting it working. Let's get the entity mesh renderer here. Make a shader material. We set the shader equal to a known shader quantity, which we bring in. Sprite animation shader here, where we get a startup resource. And need to figure out how to get this loaded. This is a shader type, so let's constructors for this we can play with. Of this. Yeah, there you go. Molly was sitting to the side. She rotated around to use Sky as a pillow. Guy gets along with everybody. She technically doesn't care. She has gotten along with everybody as well. She is getting the "I am bigger than you and you are getting a bath right now" treatment, and she is resisting. Like, she trotted in here the first time without a care in the world. Mason and Sherbet were intimidated. Ember and Sammy were having none of it. Shader extends what? Sky is thrown off because she'll fight. Sky. Poor buddy. Normally, Sky gets away with the fact that he's the biggest cat. So he can usually bully the others. But, she was not having it. She was not having it at all. Okay, shader is a resource. You give it the path. The face-off is real right now. It's that cat frozen in time thing. Like, they're not full-on fighting each other. It's not the ears back growling, ready to fight. It is the... Both of them are sitting very still with their ears cocked a little bit, staring at each other, seeing who will make the first move. Sky, come here. Sky. She's being mean to me. What? Oh, he's sulking hard here. Yeah, you got kicked a bunch. We are going to give it a path, which will be... Where did we put the shader for that? Entity mesh rendering. Okay, it is in the shaders folder above the map shader renderer. But I think we're still going to have to fully specify it. So this would be screens, game, rendering. App. Shaders. Based. Shaders is map shader render.gshader. A shader. Does it explode? Did not load a shader. Our actual folder structure here. Okay. Screens. World state. Game. Rendering. Map render. Shader based. Shaders. GD shader. Shader exists. Okay. Better way to deal with this. Because I want to be careful about resources having to specify things that might not be there. So, like, the entity mesh render requires a shader, but that's just because it uses a shader. There's nothing about an entity renderer or the global resources that needs that shader render. This is technically an opportunity to have things like in the settings to assert that. Is like I could put this string in a resource file as, you know, in like a dictionary in the resource file to say, oh, the entity renderer wants this path. So I could swap out the shaders if I wanted, but for now, we won't. Okay, we have a shader now. Let's actually put that up here. Keep that shader around. We're going to do stuff to it. I think. If I remember the code right. Shader. Create a new material, which is temporary to it. He tried to do a, I'm the grown-up and you need a bath cat move on her, and she was having none of it. She grabbed his head and started kicking. This guy generally gets really put out because normally he is the friendly grown-up cat. he I call him the diplomat, but a lot of times he kind of acts as a parent. Like, some of his behaviors have that vibe of the sort of like, again, parent cat. All right, we make a shader material. We set its shader. We set the major parameters. Then we have custom data that we need to verify how to set. Because it's the material where we set the parameters. Okay. We only need the shader briefly. We don't need to store the shader. Okay. We need the material, the shader material we need to keep active. Shader material. Because over here, the global shader parameters don't change. But in this case, these shader parameters need to be updated anytime the player has caused the visible region to move. So you've stepped into a different map block. A different one of these 30 wide chunks. So we have a 3x3 array of them that is largely just a... This is constructed, let's say. This is not a like hard thing, but we're just building it out. We're saying there are 30 tiles by 30 tiles squares being set out in the world. We build a texture map out of them by taking the existing texture map and saying, okay, proportionally from where we are, this is the rectangle on the texture map. So mesh render, we create just a straight up new material and we set its shader. And then we can set parameters. Set the shader. Set its size. Then inside the shader, we are going to we have two things that are going to happen. Is we're going to check the player's position each time to determine if we need to rebuild the current map. And if we do, we feed new data into the shader. So a map render needs an update. Public virtual. Don't mean public key. I see why it's doing that. It's trying to be helpful. Normally, it does nothing. Then we can go into game. I might have it look for an event in player state. It only cares if the player moves. If the player is holding still, there's nothing that the map renderer cares about. But for the time being, we're going to kind of brute force it here. Update shader render. Update, and let's see here. Position. E. We get the player position. We're not going to get all the way through this tonight because we're going to have to start writing the shader too, and there's a lot of song and dance that goes into that. So I think now will be our stopping point. We're kind of... We've made progress. We've made progress. Let's put it there. Oh. But good times, good times. Let's see. We've got our world map entered and loaded, which gives us the spawn list that we can load into as far as world state is concerned. And we've got the map portion, which we can begin feeding into the map renderer. We have the basic pieces that we need. The next thing is putting together the visible map area and then moving the visible area around and creating the visible map area texture to match that. To begin with, we're just going to keep the visible area on 0, 0 going down and right. That's just what we'll start with. So we'll always assume that that texture is the same. So we'll be passing that texture down in. And that texture is... So that texture is a series of colors. I mean, it's a texture. It's an image. But each pixel on it represents a grid square. The red channel tells us the index of the texture to use. the assumption will be it's going to translate a 1-based index to a 0-based index as far as offsets are concerned, but 0 means no tile here. With the tiles to be set otherwise. Now, thinking on it. Hey there, Sky. Welcome. We're about 8 days out now, aren't we? Wilds looms closer. But we have a texture that represents which tile to use in the red channel. So, if it's 0 in the red channel, use the first tile. If it's 1 in the red channel, use the second tile. That kind of thing. We take that and we say, okay, this pixel in this space is within this grid square, which means it is this texture. Set that texture square accordingly. Or set the pixels accordingly as you move through it. So the shader needs to be supplied with the texture atlas from the world. So as soon as we create that shader material, we load the texture atlas into it. And then anytime we update, we load the new visible texture area in. Yeah, I think we got it. I think we've got it. Oh, but I hope everybody had a good time tonight. I had some new faces swinging through, a couple of new folks over on the Twitch and on the YouTube side. Anybody that's still here, thank you for joining us tonight. It is ending, Sky. We're just wrapping up. I don't want to try to dive into the texture at this point. I feel like I've got to get my brain fully wrapped around it and get rolling. I've done the shaders offline a couple of times because they are... It's like coding in C++. They're fiddly. But next time we'll get that in there. We'll get the map rendering, and then we'll work on the repositioning and recalculating of the area texture. Repositioning is going to be more straightforward than rebuilding the texture map that it reads from. But yeah. Guest star system isn't in there yet, Lunar. But I do hope to have guest star characters, of some kind. Oh, but I hope everybody had a good time with us tonight. If you like what you saw and would like to see more, remember to like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. It helps the channel grow. In the meantime, I hope the rest of your day is good, and I'll see you next time.